you as your patient for tomorrow, your future patient. Like everybody else, I will also become ill someday. When that time comes, uh, who knows, one of you may be treating me. And I want you to think of me as your potential patient. I want you to think of what I will be suffering from, what I will be going through, and think about what you can do to help me. Uh, but before I talk about you, me as your patient, I want to introduce you to one person who is called the founder of palliative care globally. Do you know who was the founder of palliative care? Anybody? Anybody wants to offer a name? Who brought out the concept? If you are unable to speak, send your answer by chat. Okay, doesn't matter. I'll tell you, but you can be proud that the founder of palliative care movement in the world was a nurse. As a nurse, she found that everybody was rejecting people who were very ill and often dying. She started caring for them. And then she found that because she was a nurse, no doctor was listening to her. A senior doctor told her, Cecily, go and read medicine. Unless you are a doctor, no doctor will listen to you. Does that sound familiar? So, I don't know, are you showing my presentation? Put it on slideshow, please. That is Dame Cicely Saunders. Dame is the canonhood by the royalty in UK. Cicely Saunders was a nurse and later became a doctor. So let us remember her with pride and pleasure. And you are all going to walk in the path like many of us are that she showed us. Okay, I know that there is at least one person in the audience with a doctorate. There are very senior people here, nursing superintendents, supervisors, and people who are in various fields. You may consider yourself in various roles. It can be any of these. You may be a teaching professor. You may be a mentor to many people. You may be a counselor, manager of a team. You may be a researcher. But as your patient, next please, my requirement is whether you are a researcher or a professor or a mentor, I want a good human being to care for me. I want you to consider me a person. See me. Please do not talk about it, me, as that patient in port 33, that patient in room, that patient who is in the corridor. Please. And whether I'm saying this not only to nurses, to any healthcare professional, see me as a person. See me as Rajagopal. Because even though I am a patient, I still am a human being. And I hope if I am emotionally overcome when I am ill, I am crying, I hope you will not be afraid to hold a hand for a minute, even if you are very busy, or to buy a tear. That's the human being that I want. But not only that human being, not only somebody will hold a hand, I certainly want you to know your business. I want you to be knowledgeable. I want your heart, but I also want your brain. This is not only about nurses. This is true for nurses, doctors, everybody else. Healthcare provider, the duty is to relieve suffering. The duty of the healthcare provider is to mitigate suffering, and there is no exception to this rule. Were you taught how to relieve suffering? Who do I say? Pranab? Pranab, what's the second name? Pranab, when you learned,
Yes, sir.
studied nursing, were you taught
Yes, sir.
how to relieve suffering? How to relieve pain, for example? Were you taught what to do when I am crying in distress? Who else wants to speak? Alice? Preeti? Will somebody tell me whether your training included prevention and
Therapeutic
management?
touch to the patient.
That would be great. But my question is specific. Your curriculum and your training, did it teach you or did you learn that touch by yourself?
Sir, in my college, I was taught that this to alleviate suffering was a very important aspect.
Were you taught how to relieve suffering, Alice? Not you were taught that you had to relieve suffering. Were you taught how to identify elements of suffering and relieve it? Anyway, I will not pursue it. Maybe
Yes,
you were, maybe you
Yes.
were, maybe not, very often not. You be friends, once I was I was once visiting a patient, and the patient was restless and crying out this way and that way, and his hands were tied, his legs were tied. And a senior nurse came in and tapped on the person and said, Don't fight, and open your mouth, put in the thermometer, kept the mouth closed, and then check the pulse, check the BP. That senior nurse was totally disregarding the suffering of the patients. She didn't care. But as she was going out, the junior nurse was carrying a tray, put the tray down, held the man's face like this, and asked, What is it, uncle? Something like that. That girl had humanity in her. The senior who can check only the vital signs and walks away without consideration for the suffering is a machine. Doctors very often are machines. Nurses very often are human beings. There are machines among nurses, there are machines, human beings among doctors, but generally, my respect to nurses is because they are not afraid to be human beings very often, not always. So, my first request to all of you, Tenzin, Gen Z, everyone, don't be afraid of your humanity. When you have compassion inside, don't hesitate to bring it out. This is how health is defined by World Health Organization. A state of complete physical, social, and mental well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. Mental and social well-being also. This should be our target. Next, please. Can you show that question one? I wait a minute. You will soon see a question on the screen. Arun, will you explain to them what to do?
I request everyone to please tick the correct answer. Please select the correct answer and submit. Not only for one or two, I request everyone.
Everyone, please choose one of the answers.
We will not get any of your identity. It is an anonymous poll.
Even if you have written given a wrong answer, nobody will know. Nobody will know who answered what. Please, everybody. please please give the most appropriate answer. ഞാനത് പറഞ്ഞതിനെ വെട്ടിക്കളഞ്ഞല്ലേ? ഞാൻ എഴുതി വെച്ചതിലുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. Okay. Improving quality of life of patients and family. Okay, it is also treatment of poor patients. It is also treatment of pain. It's also terminal care. But it is not only terminal care. It is not only treatment of pain. And generally, it is treatment improved at quality of life of patient and family. That is the first lesson to learn about palliative care. Next, please. The slide. ഈ സ്ലൈഡ് മാറ്റുക. So the focus of healthcare as a whole is treatment, and 10 million, that is 1 crore of Indians, are estimated to be in serious health-related suffering, which may not only be pain, it may be breathlessness, it may be emotional distress, it may be poverty, it may be other social factors. Next, please. That is how I would consider you to remember. That is not the official WHO definition, but please try to remember this. Palliative care is prevention and treatment of serious health-related suffering of the patient and the family. How many of you have had a seriously ill person in your own family, and you will remember that the whole family is suffering with the patient? So it is prevention and treatment of serious health-related suffering of the patient and the family. And if you will notice that if you will notice the 4 circles, these are all elements of suffering. On the right, you have physical suffering. That is pain, breathlessness, ulcers, pressure sores, foul smell, inability to move, paralysis, anything. Social, relationship issues. How many women get abandoned by husbands when they have a serious illness? Even today in our society. And how many people quarrel between them? The children quarreling between them as to who should look after the mother. These are all realities. Emotional and financial issues also. Emotional, depression, anxiety, etc., etc. And spiritual. Why did God do this to me? What's the meaning of my life? I wish I were dead. All these, you will notice, are encroaching onto one another. And what the patient suffers is a combination of all these. Anybody has a question about this or a comment? Either unmute and speak or send a question by chat. Anything about what I have said so far that you want to comment or question? Next one. This is how the World Health Organization defines. I gave you the simple definition earlier, remember? Prevention and treatment of serious health-related suffering. But this is the official WHO definition. And because it is long, I have highlighted some points by red. One, we already said it's about quality of life. Improving the quality of life. Not only the patient, but also the family. By prevention and relief of suffering, which may be physical, psychosocial, psychological, social, or spiritual. Okay. I told you already that the suffering may be in any one of the several domains, physical, social, psychological, etc. Just to illustrate what we mean, just see this video. It's a 5 minutes video. I want you to see that, and when I ask a question, please react to the question.
In my career. In palliative care, we have this notion of total pain, pain that takes into account the life circumstances of the patient that contribute to his or her experience of suffering. I came across that concept quite early in my life, and in my career, and I thought I understood it, theoretically at least. And then one day, the home care team that I was a part of was called in to see this fisherman in one of the outlying villages of Trivandrum. We parked our van some 400 meters away, made our way down this narrow, undulating path. We could hear this man's screams well before we got to his house. And on approaching the house, we were assaulted by this stench, which made me gag. And when we entered his home, we were met by this helpless young woman, and behind her on the bed, a man in his 40s, who was the source of the screams. He had a myriad problems and a feeding tube. And on closer examination, we found that he also had a bowel obstruction that was not allowing him to pass what his wife was so diligently feeding him because she didn't know what else to do to look after him. And as a result, he was regurgitating his own waste. It was awful. Anyway, he was cleaned up, analgesics and other medication were administered, but no matter what we did, his pain would not fall below 6 on the pain scale, which is essentially a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, where we ask people to score their subjective pain. So finally, this benevolent and wise doctor that I have the absolute privilege of calling my mentor, he took this man's hand in his own, and he asked him, he said, "What's your biggest concern right now? What is bothering you?" What an odd question, I thought. I mean, the pain, the humiliation, the despair, and just the misery of everything that he was experiencing. I mean, the answer was glaringly obvious to me. The man didn't say anything for a long time, and I started to get fidgety. The silence was starting to get awkward and strained, to me at least. But the good doctor, he held steadfast. And after about 6 long minutes, and I know this because I was timing it, this man very softly said, "All I wanted was for my children not to be fishermen. And now they're going to be just that." He knew he was dying, and he knew that his wife would not be able to support the children on her own, and this one fact was causing him far more agony than anything else that he was going through. So one of the things we strive to do in our program is to undertake the educational needs of children from disease-ravaged families that can no longer afford to send them to school. But this process takes about a week from when the child has been identified. In this case, however, we sped up the processes. Donors were found, pledges were made, documents were signed, all to see these 2 children, aged 8 and 10, through to college. We returned to the fisherman's house the next morning, and he was asked what his pain was. "Still 6, he said. He was then shown the documents, and he was told, "It is done. Your children will not be fishermen." The transformation on that man's face was magical. And once he had digested that information, he was very gently asked one more time, "What is your pain now?" 1. He died 3 days later, pain-free. And that, my friends, is total pain. And that was when I truly learned my first lesson in being still and allowing. In palliative care, we have this
Do you see people like this? If somebody had the problem, they appeared to be in pain, but they were worried about the children, they were worried about death, would you know till you sit down and ask? So, when we talk about treatment of suffering, these are questions that we may have to ask. We very often talk about just the physical examination and physical findings, whereas the real problem may be much deeper. Next, please. And also, can you stop the screen share for a minute? Friends, I'm very sorry to do this to you, but we are all having ice cream. They are all hiding it, I'm showing it. What did I do? I am giving you pain, right? Listen, Alice is smiling. Alice is saying this clearly is cruel. Friends, when somebody is suffering like that, when the man was worried about his children, does the society have a duty to relieve that suffering? Does the healthcare system have a duty to relieve that suffering? Opinions may vary. Is it your duty? Preeti, is it your duty? Is it my duty? What do you think, Preeti? I put Preeti into difficulty. Who is sitting beside Preeti? Alice? What do you think, Alice?
Yeah, I think it is every individual's duty, sir. Duty is one, and the other thing is tomorrow I might be in the same position. So I would
Alice.
want the whole.
Alice, that is empathy. Being able to feel somebody else's suffering, the ability to put yourself into the other person's shoes, realizing that tomorrow they are we are they. Alice, but Alice, where do you work?
I work in Chinchpada Christian Hospital.
Can you take care of these two children's education? And every patient like that? You by alone will not be able to do it. But Shiva, do we take care of children's education here?
Yes, sir.
How? How do we manage that? First, find out. Finding out means sitting there still, laying a hand on the hand and asking, what's your biggest concern? Not making assumptions, not assuming that it is pain. What's your biggest concern? Waiting long enough for them to speak and being willing to take that in. And when we started finding this, that children were dropping out of school, and many people just wouldn't even express it. The money for children's education comes from your pocket. No, where does it come from? You just ask, hey, friends, we need money. How many of you are on Facebook? Suppose you put up a post on the Facebook on behalf of your organization, hospital. If there are a group of you, there are these 5 families where the children are going to drop out of school. We need so much money. Please, somebody sponsor on child's education. It is as simple as that, Alice. It is as simple as that. Okay, The first time there may not be enough responses. You may have to go to the Rotary Club or Lions Club and ask, or go somewhere else. But it's taking the trouble. Palliative care includes that. And let me ask you one more question. How many of you are able to think about your own death? Anybody who is able to think about your own death, please raise your hand. All young people. How can you think about it? Not one? Okay. You don't have to worry. Unfortunately, everybody is going to die. That's the bad news. Human mortality is 100%. But let me talk about myself. At my age, it is not difficult to think about that. Where do you think I would like to die in? In your ICU? Or in a ward with my family? Or at my home? What do you think will be best? What happens in your hospital? Where do dying people die? Do they die in ICUs, the big hospitals? Next slide, Anigam. This international agency studies the quality of life towards the end of life, ranks India among the worst 15 countries to die in. That's because in India, we do not treat pain. We not only do we not treat pain, we actually inflict suffering on people by putting them in ICUs and imprisoning them. Listen, if you do that to me, I will come back from there and haunt you. I want to be with my family. Those few days are precious. That's when I can give more love because I have nothing else to do and get some love back. And that imprisonment in the ICU prevents all that. People need compassionate end of life care. That's also palliative care. Next, please. This doctor, Bengali doctor, Sanghamitra says, in India, the poor die in misery and neglect. The middle class die in misery of ignorance. The rich die in misery on ventilators. No one gets a pain-free and dignified death. These are things that you have to change. Next, please. Our objective is quality of life. So if somebody, many of you have had an experience of this in your own family, a grandfather who is ill or a grandmother who is ill or a parent who is ill, they have no appetite. What do you do? No. Didi or Nani, have something, eat something. I don't want anything. Oh, you must eat something, otherwise how will you be strong? When you have no appetite, you can't eat. If somebody is having advanced cancer, saying give him nutritious food doesn't make sense. They can't eat. If some medicines will help, sometimes it may be useful. But for anybody who is having loss of appetite, the palliative approach will be stop nagging, no force feeding. Instead, find out what the person likes and dislikes. Don't give him anything that he dislikes. Even if the doctor says it's good for him. And don't give him a plate full. They will immediately have aversion of food. Give them small quantities, only what they like. Avoid the temptation to say, have some more, have some more. Stop when they have had enough. Because even if you force them, they won't eat too much. So what will you do? You will put in an nasogastric tube for a dying person? with advanced malignancy. That's what's often done. That's pointless. I don't want that tube there if I am your patient. Next, please. Your objective is quality of life. Your objective now is not nutrition. Now, here's another question for you. Please answer this question, everybody. Okay, thank you for your responses. Wait. I know there are different arguments, but in this case, majority wins because think of me. Think of me if I am your patient. I am in pain. Why should I have to wait till you have completed the curative treatment? And palliative care is not only for pain, it's for other problems also. And it is not only for terminally ill patients. I'm glad you frankly gave your opinions. But the majority opinion is correct. If I am suffering, ladies and gentlemen, I need support. I need care at that point of time. Stop the board. Next slide, please. Stuck. Whenever suffering starts, it should start. If there is, even at the time of the first appearance for the patient, there is breathlessness, that has to be treated. And it has to go hand in hand with disease-specific treatment. By all means, treat the disease, but also treat the symptom. Okay, everybody is happy with this, or does anybody have a problem with this? Next, please. And usually, the relationship is between the patient and the hospital. You know that in our country, everywhere, men are migrating to other places for work. Very often, children, women, and old people are left alone in villages. Small hospitals are all closing down. The large corporate hospitals are growing. There is a growing disconnect between the patient, who is now a stranger in your hospital. You know them. The people who are wandering about as if they are totally lost. This disconnection is a reality today. And the solution for that is the social capital, the goodness in the community. What we do in palliative care is to engage the community in care. When you someday, after the COVID problems are over, visit us in Trivandrum and we take you out on home visits, you will see how community volunteers, just the good people in the community, come forth to help the patients. How did we define health in the beginning? Anybody? Do you remember? What is health? Somebody has to answer. Either speak or chat. What is health? Even if you make a mistake, it's okay. Say something. Hey, Shiva, I think they are all angry with me.
Sir, health is a state of complete social, physical, and mental well-being, and not merely an absence of disease or infirmity.
Meera?
Yes, sir.
Well done. That's what we should be doing, right? Physical, social, and mental well-being. Look at the middle picture. Next, please. that so many people who are normally housebound because they cannot walk, the volunteers in the community came, 160 college students came, 4 people going to one patient's home, physically lifting them up, putting them in a vehicle, bringing them, because they could feel the sea. Is this healthcare? Shija, is this healthcare? Molly Matthew, is this healthcare? Dr. Rajini Sharma, can you say this is healthcare?
Yes, sir.
This is the best healthcare, physical,
Not-
social, and mental well-being.
Sir, yes, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Rajani. Listen, we may be treating their diseases, but they have to feel good, right? Feeling well. And that girl in red and green, I remember, she said she doesn't have normal sensation in her feet, but she said the waves touching my feet was the best experience in my whole life. And that is the pinnacle of healthcare. And palliative care is making all that well-being happen. You will, in the coming weeks, see how pain is treated, how each symptom is treated. But we'll also talk about how mental wellness and the social wellness are achieved. Next, please. And this care, ladies and gentlemen, should not be available only in hospitals. You know that the most needy people do not reach you in the hospital, especially women, especially the poor. They're all stuck in their homes. And we have to reach them. This is happening. Government of India in the new national health policy is training ASHA workers, multi-purpose health workers, nurses and doctors in palliative care. And through 1.5 lakhs of health family wellness centers, some palliative care is being introduced, including visit to their homes. This happened in our country when I was a child. Whatever healthcare provider, maybe it was an Ayurvedic physician, would do home visits. In the West, they do it. In UK and USA, it happens. In USA and UK, if there's a bedridden patient, a district nurse visits them once a day. In our country, we have stopped the home visits. It's only hospital. And palliative care is bringing it back. And when we do go to their homes, one of our jobs is to help patients, but it's also to help the families and train the families in proper care for the patients. Next. So I'll stop there, friends, and leave it to Shiva to conduct the discussion.
Thank you, sir. So if you have any doubts, please ask. If you want to comment anything, you can comment also. So if you have any questions, you can put in the chat box also. Anybody?
Ask you, has somebody gone through the experience of somebody with serious illness in your own family? Many of you must have. Somebody with serious illness? Please raise your hand if you have had that experience.
Alice?
Alice and Pranava. Alice, is the experience something that you can talk about?
Yes, sir.
Please share it with us.
I have a younger sister. So, and when she was 25 years old, she had adenocarcinoma of the thyroid. Then she underwent thyroidectomy. And when she was 28 years old, she had CA breast, which was stage 2. So after going for, she had all 3 surgery, radiation and chemo. So after her chemo, the way she used to, the side effects of the chemo was very hard to look at. And because she was very young and my dad had to shave off her hair because she was having hair fall. And my dad found it very it was suffering for the whole family. But by God's grace, she's well now and she's getting married next month. But the suffering that we went through as a family was so much, especially when she was when she threw up after having the chemo. And we as a whole family, we used to go to the hospital, take care of her. And when we heard the diagnosis itself, from that time itself, we were so devastated. But and it took almost, she had almost 1 whole year of treatment. And there are few things which I can never forget. Like there was one surgeon who held her and who was there for her. And she even now she keeps in touch with him because he was just like a father. He was so kind, so compassionate. And there was one particular sister who would always be very kind with her and pray for her when she goes for chemos. So these are the things I'll never forget. Yeah, so this was.
Alice, you were sharing a painful story with us. And we could see that you were getting very emotional thinking about the suffering of your sister, the suffering in the family. But you ended with a very positive note. How that one surgeon and one nurse gave palliative care to her. Well, they may not be trained palliative care physician and nurse, but they had it in them. And you must have had numerous doctors and nurses in that hospital. But those 2 human beings were not afraid of showing their compassion. And that is my plea to all of you. You have compassion inside. Once you put on your white coat and start doing your job, you are afraid to show your compassion. Don't be, because that is what makes your job and mine precious. Being able to help people who are in real need. You gave 2 very good experiences, Alice. Were any of the opposite kinds your experience also? Or her experience?
There was nothing so much in the hospital per se, but she was enrolled into a research. So they had to give an extra radiation for her. So, and then the registrar tried to explain it to me what the research was. And she was being very nice. I had to go back to her and ask her because I was really, my priority was my sister. My priority was not the research that she was going into. So that was just one thing because I was worried whether giving the extra radiation will it affect her. But the registrar explained it to me. But I'm just thinking probably she could have taken more time and explained it clearly to me and to my sister. That was a small thing. Otherwise, it was nice.
Okay, Pranab, did you want to share a story? Alice, thank you very much. Pranab, did you want to share a story? I thought,
sir.
Pranab, you raised your hand.
Thank you, sir, for time. I had a grandfather who was suffering from oral cavity cancer 12 years ago. In those time, I don't know about the chemo and the treatment of cancer, but I still remember my grandfather was crying every day due to pain. So in those days I was quite young. I don't remember, and I don't know about medical term. But my grandfather died due to cancer in oral cavity. It was so painful. He cried every day because of pain.
Pranab, you are a small child. You do not remember the details, except that there was suffering. Thank you very much for sharing that. And Alice, thank you for sharing your story. What should have happened is from day one, people should have looked for elements of suffering, should have found out whether somebody is in pain. Do you think pain is being treated properly in our country? I can tell you it is not. Only 2% of the Indians get proper modern pain management. Most pain is untreated. Surgical pain even is not treated properly. So pain and other symptoms need to be treated. People have to be taught, doctors particularly, and nurses and other professionals need to be taught how to identify psychological and social suffering and how to do at least the first aid for psychological and social suffering. We need to engage the community to come in, volunteers in the community, society, so that social problems can be treated, poverty can be alleviated. All this becomes part of palliative care. As we go on with the course in the next few weeks, you will have more detailed discussions about what everyone can do about these issues. Shall we go on to the case presentation?
Yes, sir. So before we move on to the case presentation, I would like to highlight a few points. So as we discussed earlier, this is the main aim of palliative care is to relieve sufferings and give best possible quality of life of the patient and their family. As we already hear from Sister Alice, if one person's get illness, the whole family will be affecting. So the palliative care is not only for the patients, it's for the family also. And it is a total care, it's physical, social, emotional, and spiritual care. So we all know that if the patient is having more psychosocial issues are there, the physical distress not controlled. So proper listening their that emotions, we need to explore their problems so that we can able to listen their full details, and we can give some psychological support. We can give some provide some additional support to the patient and family members. And if we fulfill that total care to the patients, we need we need a team approach. So we need a teamwork, good teamwork, and we need a multidisciplinary team approach need. And after that, if the palliative care never stop. Even if the patient dies, we can continue the patients, the palliative care with the caregivers. We can give a bereavement support to the caregivers. And if the patient needs to need any rehabilitations, we can continue the educational rehabilitation, vocational rehabilitation, and all. So we can move on to the case presentation now. So today, the patients.
Stay or go? No, no, you want me to stay?
Yes.
because I suspect that my presence is inhibiting interaction. Maybe you will speak more freely if I am not here. It's just a vague suspicion. So I'm leaving you with Shiba and Lakshmi and Arun. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Next,
Good afternoon, all. Myself is Lakshmi TK, Nursing Officer, Pallium India. I'm here to present a patient story. So let's start. My patient, 35 years male patient, is diagnosed with traumatic cardiothoracic with stage 4 wound present over sacral and gluteal region left side. About the presenting complaints, since 2006 onwards, he was on wheelchair. Then constipation history is there since 3 days. Bedsore present over the sacral and gluteal region. Urinary incontinence since 1 month and decreased oral intake since 1 week. About the history of illness. Basically, he started his working in his young age after his father's death. His history start. He had a history of fall while carrying weight, followed by neck pain and weakness of both lower limbs, and was diagnosed with traumatic quadriplegia in August 2006. Later, he underwent various surgeries, including laminectomy, admitted various hospitals, and discharged after 1 month. And in 2017, he had developed urinary tract infection and went for the treatment in a private hospital. From there, he developed a bedsore of the sacral and gluteal region. Gradually, it became stage 4 and disturbed sleep pattern and decreased oral intake also there. After admission, on examination, he was conscious and oriented, vitals are stable. About the wound, on touching, wound was warm and tenderness present, exudate present, tunneling present, wound was irregular, foul smell also there, and he was on continuous bladder drainage. Treatment and significant investigation. Routine investigations all done. About the treatment aspect, daily wound dressing was doing with normal saline and tap metronidazole powder. Before wound dressing, we are applying injection silocaine for pain over the wound site. Also, slough cutting done. Next, going to the psychosocial aspects. This 35-year-old unmarried man was living with his 65-year-old mother on his own house. He had one brother and he's married, living separately, who was not much caring and helping them. His main source of income is his disability pension and some of his friends and church support. They have taken rupees 2 lakh from private finance bank for the treatment purpose. He was used to go to church. Now he is not able to go. This makes him very sad. He is not interested in reading books and newspaper, but he uses phone. He says to his mother that I don't think I can work, so please don't spend money over my treatment. This is one concern he says to her mother. His mother is having back pain since 1 year and also hypertensive and on medication. And he's so much attached to his mother. Only mother is the primary caregiver for this patient. During the treatment course, he was on medicines, tab tramadol 50 mg q8 hourly, tab amitril 25 mg HS, tab dalcolax 5 mg q HS, syrup cramafin 50 ml HS, tab pantoprazole 40 mg and tab oxybutane 5 mg TDS. Main concerns having, that is wound management, physiotherapy and occupational rehabilitation. The summarizing, 35 years old traumatic cardioparalysis patient with bedsore present over the sacral at left gluteal region, that is stage 4, had constipation for 3 days and urinary incontinence also for around 1 month. Wound cleaning and dressing done with normal saline and metronidazole mixed with the Bioline cream. Next, we can go to the discussion points. First point, do we need to provide palliative care for this patient? Next point, how we address this, that I don't think I can walk, so please don't spend money over my treatment. Next point, how we can address his spiritual need. And last point, what all can be done for this person and his mother. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi, for the wonderful presentation. If you have any clarification regarding this patient story, please ask. Do you need any clarification regarding this patient story? We all nurses, please unmute yourself and talk. So otherwise, we can move on to the discussion points. The first question is, do we need to provide palliative care for these persons? What is your answer?
Yes.
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 Okay. Very good. This patient needs palliative care because why he needs palliative care?
He needs palliative care because he get more mental support.
Mental support and
His physical need.
okay. Pinchu, you want to say something?
No, ma'am.
No. What do you think?
Physically and mental supporting, ma'am.
Okay, physical support and mental support. What about the spiritual care? He used to go to church, but after that accident, he is not able to go to church. What do you think? He needs spiritual care also?
Yes.
Yeah, he needs spiritual care. For that, some team can come to his house and they can arrange a prayer like that.
Okay.
By this way.
Thank you.
He
Any other
needs
points? Yeah. Okay.
all the social, physical, emotional and spiritual care.
Yes. He needs the total care. Okay.
Total care, yes.
Yes. Definitely, this patient need palliative care. And the second question is how we address this. I don't think I can walk, so please don't spend money over my treatment. This is his concern.
Ma'am, he knows that he's economically poor. That's the one reason why he is addressing like that. Means already you have told that his friends and all they are helping, and his brother is not at all helping. In that way, he might be economically a poor person. That's why the firstly this type of thought came to his mind. By helping him economically by arranging something, if I don't know whether in your institution is that economical support or just like that, I don't know. But by arranging something economically, we can improve the setup. It will be a very good thing, I think. Um, then the other thing is that when we have just like this, when we have some problems, usually our mental status will go down, and just we will think why we are living in such a situation. It is better. That's why that's the way he used to think, I think.
Okay, thank you, Sister Meera. Anybody wants to comment? Anything?
We do have such patients in our hospital. We used to get the same case scenario, like we have our PMR section. So the most of the patient are very poor. So they used to be admitted like 1 month, and our hospital, they used to give charity for them. Then they also arrange for the food facilities for the relative, the patient relative. And we always used to give assurance to the patient and the patient relative. And moreover, we are spiritually connected to the patient. So I think like giving reassurance to the patient and the family, it's the biggest support we can give to them.
Okay, thank you, Tenson. Any other comment? If you go for a ward rounds, if you hear these sometimes these questions, how will you respond? How will you respond? Sometimes mother comes to you and tell, my son told me like this. So what is his real problem, sister? Please tell me. Something like that. Usually the caregiver asks you. So how will you respond as a nurse? How will you respond? We have a session on communication, but before that we can just give a discussion. So what we can do here is we can explore their concern, and we don't know what is their expectation, what is their insight about his illness. Sometimes the mother has inside some hope he will get cured. That type of that insight the insight the mother should have. So we have to explore their concerns. Once we explore their concerns, then we can talk. Based on their concern, we have to talk to the patient and the caregivers, and if possible, we can give counseling to the patient and the caregivers. That is the only way we can manage this type of questions. Any questions? No questions. Okay. Then the next question is how we can address the spiritual need. How can we address? Please unmute yourself and talk.
sometimes we can advise the caregiver who give care to that person, that patient, to give some spiritual talks or spiritual videos through mobile or TV. We can provide it. We can advise the caregiver do like that.
Okay. Any other comments?
One more extra thing.
Yeah, ma'am.
Is, now, like everybody has a smartphone, so probably somebody who's in the church can directly stream the church services to this patient.
Okay.
And the other thing is somebody had already mentioned that we can involve the church people also in his care and kind of have a chat with them, that a few people can go over to his house once a week and pray for him, like for some 20 minutes or something, so that his spiritual need can be met.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So now we can understand one point here is not always the spiritual problems, not always connect to the religion. Sometimes they connect to the world. Sometimes they connect to the that important persons. Sometimes they connect to the house. All those things. So not always connect to the religions, but it should be. But we have to explore what is there, that what they mean about spiritual needs. Sometimes that we had some similar experience like that. So if you ask them what is your the spiritual need, then they said, I want to see my house, or I want to see my elder son. That is my the spiritual need. So I want to see my school. So that is the during the end of life care stage. Usually, if you talk to the patient, so what is your first wish? So sometimes they say like that. So now we need to understand that not always the spiritual needs connect to the religion, but this patient is say a Christian background, so he usually previously he goes to church, but after the accidents he is not able to go to church. So as we already said, we can give some. He is using mobile, so we can arrange some prayer like that, so that he will that fulfill his emotions. And what we did here was, Lakshmi,
What we did here was he had a lot of friend circles around him. So we facilitate them for brought the patient to the church. They are very interested to take the patient in church, and it make a great difference in patient. That is, there are a lot of people are there around him to fulfill his wish or fulfill his spiritual need. That make him a lot of happiness. Always friends help to bring the patient to the church.
Yes, as Lakshmi said, what we did was our social worker. We explore their concern and that handed over to the medical social workers team. That medical social workers find their local volunteers and friends group there, and we have arranged a electrical wheelchair. And then after discharge, they are willing to brought him to church, and now he's happy because if he wants to go to church, the friends comes and take care. So that we need a good volunteer support for this purpose. And the next question is, what all can be done for this person and his mother? What do you think? He's having an elder mother. She is the only caregiver. What do you think? Please unmute yourself and talk.
Financial support.
Financial support. We can arrange some financial support. Okay.
Sometimes we can arrange another person to support his mother because she has suffering from severe back pain. So it is difficult to manage manage that situation
Okay.
alone.
Yeah. Jency, you want to say something? Dr. Rajni Sharma. Dr. Rajni, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Yeah.
only. Ma'am, actually, we can provide holistic care to such type of patients only.
Yes, really. The holistic care is the same as the total care, physical, emotional, social, spiritual care. Definitely, these patients need the total care, the holistic care. So my question is, what all can be done for this person's and his mother? Now we learn palliative care is not only for the patient, it's for the family also. So what can be done for his mother?
Ma'am, only we can solve, we can provide her psychological support and address her concern, and whatever the things, what appropriate action we can take, means because she is a mother, her concern as a mother, and he and basically such means what, as per my experience, patients are very much concerned about the future due to the economic and the financial status. So how much assurance or whatever means help we can provide, that we can do from our end, ma'am.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay.
Ma'am.
Yeah. Francis, you want to say something?
Ma'am, for the patient, wound care, wound management, then physiotherapy, occupational rehabilitation can be arranged. And for the mother, she is hypertensive, and maybe she is more concerned about the son, and she is not managing herself. And we can check her BP regularly. We should advise her to take care of her health also.
Okay, it's very good.
Okay.
So we had the similar care to him and his mother also. Let me will share that part.
Okay. Since 2015 onwards, he was our patient. About his physical concerns, about the wound, we facilitate him for the surgery. That is, flap surgery was done on 2018 from a private hospital. We facilitated and provide financial support for that. Also, physical symptoms like constipation and bladder problems are there for this patient. We also manage that problem solved. Then home care services are there in our hospital. Home care services are given for this patient, both patient and his mother. His mother also now our patient. She was also getting free medicines from our part. Then we have a halfway home facility here. It's a department where totally bedbound or paraplegic plegia patients are admitted, and they are trained with occasional rehabilitative activities. Also, here for this patient, we trained wheelchair shifting. That is from the bed to wheelchair and from wheelchair to bed. That is shifting training we given. Now, without help, patient can shift individually to wheelchair and from wheelchair to the bed. We train them from here. Also, we facilitate the disability pension for this patient. that process all done, and now he was getting disability pension also. Then latest we provided rehabilitatory activities, that is poultry farm, based on our social worker team and all. We arranged a poultry farm services. Now he was in that work and he was happy. These are some activities, some supports we given for this patient.
Okay, so now his wound is healed. He is moving on his electrical wheelchair, and his mother is getting free medication with us, and he is running a poultry farm, and so he now he is happy, and that is why this is one of the mock presentation. That is how we manage this patient here. So when he come here, he is not able to move his own. So our physiotherapist give more training to the patient how to move from the wheelchair to bed and from bed to wheelchair without depending others. So after that he got trained individually, and then he go back, and now he is moving on his own. And he is on continuous bladder drainage, and when he come after that, we trained self-intermittent catheterization, and now he is managed with the self-intermittent catheterization 3 times a day. He will do the self-intermittent catheterization so that he won't get any urinary tract infections right now. And the night time he used to use condom, that drainage. So that is how we manage this patient here. So anybody need any more clarification? Any questions? So one important message I need to convey here is the nurses are they're spending more time with the patients. Why he is getting more that support from the hospital, the palliative care side is only because of the nurses. Nurses are exploring their main problems, and during the night duty time, the nurses went there and talked to him and explore his problems, and the nurses used to talk to the mother also, so that we got more information from the patients, from the nurses through the patient. So that is only because of the nurses. So nurses are they're spending more time with the patients. If possible, we can just give a few minutes to the patients and listen their problems. At least if you listen their problems, definitely the distress will comes down. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, we can conclude our section today. So thank you for your participation and